Okay, so there are 4 steps that I like to use when solving equations, and I need you to follow them every time you solve equations until you get really good at them, and then you don't need them anymore. Okay? Step number 1, and let's write the title. This is solving equations. Okay, and I'll have an anchor chart for this coming up pretty soon. I think I started it the other day, but I didn't finish all the steps. Okay, so the first question you should be asking yourself is there parentheses? Okay, is there parentheses? Do you see parentheses in your equation? And if so, what do I have to do? I have to distribute. Okay, that's the first thing you have to do if there's parentheses. You have to get rid of the parentheses by distributing. Step number 2. Are there like terms on either side? Like terms. And if so, then you will be combining. But it has to be on one side or the other side. You can't combine terms that are on both sides. So I'll show you that in a little bit. So combine like terms. Step number 3. Do you have the variable on both sides? Do you see your x or your y on both sides of the equation? Variable on both sides. Okay? And if so, you can't have that. The variable has to be on one side by itself. Okay? So you have to move one of them. And I like to always move the smallest one. So move smallest variable. Move the smallest variable. And again, if you move the biggest variable, is that going to do anything wrong to your equation? No. Okay? And then step number 4 is what I wrote down on the board today is see do. Okay? That means what do you see happening with your variable? Is your variable multiplying? And if so, what do? You divide. You do the opposite. Is your variable dividing? And if so, what do? You multiply. Is your variable adding? You subtract. And is your variable subtracting something? Then you add. But when you get to this step, just know that when we solve equations, we solve them backwards. So on this see-do chart, we're going to be working from the bottom up. So first, you write down everything that you see, and then we're going to do everything opposite, starting from the bottom up. And I'm going to work some problems with you so you won't get confused. Okay, so problems number 1 through 4 are pretty simple. You just do the opposite of what's happening right here. They're multiplying, so the opposite is to divide them. Right here, what's happening? Division. The x is being divided by a -3, so you are going to multiply. Okay, problem number 2, same thing. The x is being divided by the 2, so you multiply both sides by 2. Number 4, the x is being multiplied by a -5, so you will divide both sides by -5. Those are pretty simple. I'm not going to do them for you, but we're going to go ahead and start on problem number 5. And we're going to do our little checklist. So remember the notes that we did. I'm going to ask you, does it have parentheses? And you're going to say yes or no. Does it have like terms? Yes or no. Does it have a variable on both sides? Yes or no? And then C do is at the very end. Okay? So right here, problem number 5, draw your line. Does this problem have parentheses? So distribute. No, we don't have to do that. Step 2, combine like terms. Does it have anything on the left side that looks alike? I see an X here, and this one doesn't have an X. Are those like terms? No, so I don't combine. What about on the right side? There's only a 4. There's nothing else to combine it with, so there is no combining like terms. Step number 3, move the smallest variable. So move variable. That's only if I have a variable on both sides, and I only have one variable. I don't have a variable on the right side, so I don't move anything. So do you see how I go through my list and just say yes or no? Okay? So the only thing I'm going to have to do is step number 4, which is C do. So make sure you're writing this down, the table C do, on your paper. Because I'm asking you, what do you see happening with the X? And always start from the closest number to the furthest away number. So what's happening with this X right here? It's being multiplied by a half, right? That is multiplication when the number is right next to the letter. So right now it's being multiplied by a half. Write it down. What else is happening to the X? It's being subtracted by 12, so minus 12. Okay, and remember I told you we're starting from the bottom up and we're doing the opposite. So what am I going to do first? From the bottom up. Get rid of the subtraction by adding 12 to both sides. So I'm going to take this minus 12 and I'm going to add 12 to both sides so that the 12 cancels. So then you get 4 plus 12. 16 equals, bring this down. I still have my 1/2 X. Okay? What is the opposite of multiplying by a half? Dividing by a half. And that half has to be in parentheses because it's a fraction, and the calculator needs to know that it is a fraction. Okay? So we're going to divide, watch this, divide by parentheses 1/2. On the other side, divide by parentheses 1/2. That's how you're going to put it in the calculator, just like that. So type it, 16 divided by parentheses 1 divided by 2, close parentheses. Enter. So look, let's look in the calculator. Everybody's typing this. 16 divided by parentheses 1/2, close parentheses. So what are you telling the calculator? You're telling the calculator, okay, divide this 16 by this fraction. The parentheses is telling the calculator that it's a fraction. Enter. That's your answer, okay? So let's go back to our paper. Right here, X equals 32. Okay? How do we check that that's our answer? We're going to look at the back page at the bottom and go look for the number 32. So right here, these are your answers at the bottom. Do I see a 32? Yes. Cross it out because you used it already. If your answer is not there, then you did something wrong. Go ahead and start on problem number 6 and follow the steps